Once you get used to the druggings, this isn't a bad place.
Oh, it's wonderful. Truly God's country. See you on the island.
Yes, the island.
I remember in the beginning when people were talking about Epstein and the island and, you know, uh, how they were harvesting organs from children and things like that. You know, people were laughing. Regular people were scoffing at, people who were talking about this type of stuff. You know, they were dismissed and seen as nut jobs. And, you know, it was like, what are you talking about? Like, people saw them as, just conspiracy theorists, just saying stuff, wild things, you know, just to get attention or whatever. You know, conspiracy theorists were just being laughed at. But now, the files, that people have been talking about over the past 5 years have been, the stuff has been surfacing to the light, and now we know that the files are these are things that they have. This isn't like a rumor or something like that. They have the real files, the Epstein files. So now people are really talking about, what is going on, and now people are talking about, human trafficking that goes on where they kidnap kids and they bring them to this island and they do all types of crazy stuff to these kids, man. It's a fucking terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. They bring these kids to the island and they torture and sexually abuse them in all types of, demonic ways. And then, the adrenochrome, they get the adrenochrome from these tortured kids. And yeah, when I first heard this adrenochrome stuff, I'm like, what the hell are you all talking about? But then I'm hearing, it being brought up, and I'm seeing, clips of even celebrities openly talking about it. And then I'm like, oh man, it's being discussed in different spaces, right in front of us. And we didn't even realize. Like, adrenochrome is really a thing. Like, they really harvest this drug from, the torture of young kids. That's what these evil people do. You have all these high up people in the entertainment industry, and in the fashion industry, and political world. These higher up people that walk around in suits and ties and seem like they're well-adjusted people that have these sick appetites to do evil. And so Epstein supplied them. He was a supplier. He helped them get what they needed. And what happened in return? He got the upper hand because he had the dirt on him. Yeah, he got all this footage on these people on this island, partaking in all types of behavior. Some of them were cannibalizing, intestines of kids, and some of them were going out here, doing things to kids in very terrible ways. Just sick stuff that that you see in these files. All kinds of crazy revelations coming from these files. There's people being accused of all types of stuff, and it's just like, wow. That the stuff you never think that you see these people. You never think you see a person involved in something so nasty and downright, just carnally evil. You never think that there'd be people walking around on this, or people put in positions of power I think this went on before Epstein did. You know, these people would do altruistic stuff. Um, I think that, they would look for vulnerable kids, back in the, before, before TV, before whatever, find like vulnerable kids, and you take them off, and you remove them, you know, someone's gonna miss them, and you could do some sick stuff to them, and people would find out, back in those days, you snatch an orphan, and do whatever, and people wouldn't ask any questions. And it became harder to, steal kids as time went on by, and people got, more distrusting of, leaving their doors open and just letting their kids run around anywhere. People became more strict about that kind of stuff, and TV came out and technology got better, and people get missing, and then it became more of a thing to make sure that kids were, being were understanding that they had to, mindful of where they were at. So it became harder to do these types of things. So people had to come up with all types of. People have to come up with networks so that they can snatch kids up. You know what I'm saying? And this is what all this is. It's human trafficking that these people do. People like Epstein partake in. And so they had to find different channels to do that, to find kids. And another way they do this is by going after exploiting poor countries. You got Middle Eastern, Asian, Latin American, African countries that these people know that they can, advantage of, since they're going through like wars, and you probably have like a lot of orphans, and you got a lot of poor families that can't take care of their kids or whatever. You can just go in there and exploit the situation, and steal hundreds of kids, thousands of kids, and take them to some discreet location where no one's gonna know what's going on, and all types of things can happen. That's what these evil people do. And we now we're seeing it play out, because we're online. We know what's going on. We have an idea of what's going on. We have an idea of how these evil people get down, and so we know that in situations like Ukraine, we know that in situations in Palestine and all of this, those same types of people are going to be trafficking children. Because children are going to be victims of war. So kids in these situations are going to get snatched up by human traffickers and taken away, and no one's going to know, because people aren't going to have time, and they're not going to be as people are not going to be as keen to what's going on, because they're in a situation of war. People are going, their areas are being bombed, and not be able to keep track of things in these types of countries. And so human trafficking type of situation can slip in, and so if people are living in these kind of situations, they have to worry about that. And that's what goes on in the world. These are the type of people that run the world. They're out here looking to do some sick stuff behind the scenes, and they want to be walking around seem like just a good socialite in public, but behind the scenes they are as like cartoonishly evil as possible. Shit, some they ain't even good people out in real life. But once they're in front of a camera, or just the way we perceive them, we think they're just hardworking billionaires and politicians that are looking out for our interests, and they could give less than a fucking pigeon shit about the regular American or wherever you're from. Many of these politicians don't give a shit about their constituents and they're willing to let whatever happen to us. So, yeah, that's just my take on, this whole Epstein thing. I just think it's just, that's how these elite people have got get down, and that's how they've been getting down. They do a lot of ritualistic sacrifices, and they do all types of initiations that involve all types of, foul behavior. They got to do some strange things to move up in their ranks. That's what goes on. I mean, there's no other way to look at this. You can't look at this and think it's just they're just doing this. All these people just getting involved in this type of stuff because they're just bored or whatever. Like, no, like they're doing this because this is what they're required. This is how they move up in their ranks. This is what it takes for them to be powerful in their world. So, like I was saying before I was cut off, this is going to be interesting going forward to see how these people are held accountable. Like, is there really going to be, justice for the victims of Epstein Island? Are people going to be prosecuted? Are these people in power really going to have to face, the light for their behavior? Because there's no way we can move forward and call ourselves, a Christian people or whatever religion, whether you call yourself, any type of religious, moral type people, and you allow this type of stuff to happen. When this type of stuff happens, the hammer needs to come down on all these people. A lot of people need to come down and be, hit with the hammer, because this is crazy. We can't go back to where we were being ignorant. We need to really, see what's going on and, party over, and realize that there's some evils, SOBs working around. There's all types of people in suits and ties and whatever, that you thought were, upstanding, and guess what? They're not. They're the worst of the worst. They do all types of strange activities to make their way in the world. So, it's something we gotta step our foot down. People need to be held accountable. People need to stop talking about it as a Democratic thing, as a Republican thing. Stop, cut it out. This has left that stratosphere a long time ago. And we need to realize that this is a defining moment. We're gonna get these types of individuals out so that we can really realize, the type of sickos that have been, creating the issues in our country. Are we gonna weed that out? We're just gonna continue to be blind and live in a society where, these things happen and no one does anything about it, and we just, move forward, just ignoring the way that these people, start wars and destroy countries and, create all types of, issues for the public, for the American public, and for public, for countries of people in for countries of different types of people. These characters that you see in these files, they're behind a lot of the stuff that goes on in the world. And to call them out is to help, solve the world problems. These people behind the majority of the world's problems. And to call them out and bring them to task is going to help closure to the world. It's going to help the victims. And it's going to help stop this type of behavior from repeating. Because I don't want to see this type of stuff in the future. People being kidnapped and taken somewhere else. All this type of stuff going on. You don't want to hear that type of stuff. And honestly, you don't do anything about it. When you let this stuff go, they're just going to start doing it in the open. They're just going to be open human trafficking. It's going to be, open, open sesame, all types of sicko stuff going on in front of us. If we don't do something about this on a serious level, these people really got to get punished. These people got to get punished. They got to go down. They all need to get the treatment that Bill Cosby got when they were looking for every single victim of his. They wanted them to come to public and all that. Like, all that needs to happen now. Enough is enough. Because when Bill Cosby, and it was just allegations. They wasn't pussyfooting around. They wasn't like, just allegations, so let's leave it alone. No, they went after each alleged victim, and they made a whole storyline about every single victim, an alleged victim of Bill Cosby, so they can do the same thing with these people in the Epstein files. And we don't should be too powerful or in a position to where they can't get called out. Because that was the excuse they used for Bill Cosby. That he was too powerful, and his powers were, scaring the women, and then they felt they could say anything. Like, hey, who's more powerful right now than Donald Trump? So the Me Too movement should be stronger than ever. If there's any other time when the Me Too movement was needed, it is now. So they should be louder than a motherfucker. You got a sitting president that's got allegations. So, more needs to happen, and hopefully, things are gonna transpire in the forthcoming future, the near future, that can bring light to this and bring the justice that is needed. So that's it for now. I'm out. I'll talk to you later.
I'll suck your for $1,000.
I'm sorry, I wasn't listening.
Now, so far, we have what appears to me to be a series of victimless crimes.
What about the toe?
Forget about the fucking toe! Ow! Stay out of Malibu, deadbeat!
They're gonna kill that poor woman, man.
What the fuck are you talking about? That poor slut kidnapped herself.
You got any promising leads or?
Yeah, sure. The gun is working in shifts.
Oh, fucking.
Is this your homework, Larry?
This is a bummer, man.
You're entering a world of pain, son. We know that this is your homework. And we know that this is your homework.
I cut your dick off. Nothing is fucked here.
Nothing is fucked.
No, man.
The goddamn plane has crashed into the mountain.
Do you see what happens, Larry, when you fuck a stranger in the ass? What happens, Larry?